gotta believe in yourself, huh? Who else gon' believe in you? Who else gon' believe in you? Who else gon' believe in you? Believe in yourself, yeah. Who else gon' believe in you?
Hey guys, welcome to the Manny Hall Show once again. I'm getting ready to interview Andrew Zelman of Scene Magazine. I'm really excited about this interview. This guy is awesome, doing some amazing things in the city of Cleveland. You're going to be able to hear some of his story and all the great things that Scene Magazine is doing. Hey, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
Awesome. Please tell the people what your name is and what you do.
Sure. My name is Andrew Zelman, and I'm the CEO of Euclid Media Group, which includes locally Cleveland Scene Magazine and then 5 other publications around the country.
Wow. So you're doing a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. It's never a dull moment. And always different things going on, and keeping up with all the different markets and what we have going on in each city.
Now you said 5. Now I read up and I only had 3. So I saw Detroit, Orlando, and what are the other cities?
So we've got Cleveland Scene here, obviously. Detroit, it's called the Metro Times.
Okay.
Orlando Weekly, the San Antonio Current.
Okay.
Riverfront Times, which is in St. Louis.
Wow.
And then, as of about 2 weeks ago, the Cincinnati City Beat.
Jeez.
So that's our 6th publication. So
That is awesome.
So all weekly magazines.
Yeah.
And then along with that, the websites and events in each market too.
Now, how did you get started with everything? So I saw that you grew up in Beechwood.
Yep.
You went to high school there. I actually went to Maple Heights.
Okay.
You graduated in 2001. I graduated in 2000.
Okay.
So for me in 2000, it was like that year that they thought that the world was going to end with Y2K and everything. So you know all about that. What made you get started with everything you're doing?
So I was in a completely different industry and field, and started to really follow Scene on social media. Scene was kind of becoming more of a prominent news source for like millennials or younger people. Was liking a lot of what they were doing. It was my go-to place when I wanted to know what was going on in the city, where to eat.
Absolutely.
Kind of keeping up with the news. And so I thought it was starting to carve out like a nice niche.
Right.
And doing more events. And so decided to meet with the people that were currently owning it and running it. And around the same time, the company that owned it decided to put it up for sale. And so we decided to put a new ownership group together, me and a couple of other people that were at the company previously and some other investors, and put this group together and bought Scene at that time along with 3 others. And then, like I said, we've expanded it to add a couple more.
Yeah, it's almost like this awesome monopoly that you guys are doing. It's like, and I read on some of the other publications, and it has like the same kind of interesting feel to it, but its own difference as well. So it's pretty interesting how you guys are doing. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we've focused on mid-size markets overall. So we've had opportunities to look at New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, the weeklies there. We feel like in those markets, it's a little bit of a tougher climate to work in because there's so many other publications. There's so many others doing events in those places. And so because of that, we've kept to, I'd say, small to mid-sized markets like the ones we've talked about, because we can carve out more of that competition. We can be more of a distinct voice in those cities. And then also when we throw events and have different things going on, there's not as much out there, right? So we're throwing a big beer fest in most of our markets, and there's not that many more, whereas, I don't know how you distinguish yourself if you're doing that in New York City.
That's true, absolutely. Now, your background in marketing as well.
Yep.
So you're doing this great marketing, you got this great mindset and brain in order to do and grasp marketing. But what made you say, I'm going to get this magazine and I'm going to take it to the next level as well?
Sure. So, I think that I saw the successes that were going on, and I saw the big thing in this world is the transition, right? So we still print our publication every single week. This is right here is our most recent one. So we print Scene every single week. We print our other publications every week, but and I can refer to it. A few years ago, we probably would have had, say, 60 pages or so.
Yeah.
Now it's 48, 52 pages. So
Gotcha.
print is not at all as robust as it used to be, right?
Right.
So that's the number of pages that we do every week, as well as the number of copies we print on a weekly basis. And the reason for that is across the board in all of print publications, print advertising is not what it used to be, and most of that's because of the internet.
Right.
And so, but what I saw was that Scene and other weeklies were trying to kind of merge more into the online space. And so using that website more frequently, using social media to kind of drive that traffic onto the website. And so I thought that those were valuable pieces that I saw that Scene was doing, and that's where I thought that there was a forward-thinking mindset to be able to kind of bring it into for a new generation of people. And it was a change because years ago, like, the website was up, but it got updated once a week when these new stories came out. And now, if you go to our website or social media feeds, we're updating them every half hour, every hour, with different stories and topics. And so, you know, you need to kind of keep that churn going so that people want to keep coming to your site and seeing what's going on.
Absolutely. And I'm actually just down the road at Amtrust, so I do business development down there. And what I found is you have to not only be different, but you have to be innovative as well. And sometimes different can be bad, and then sometimes different can be good. But what I always liked about Scene Magazine is they stay relevant. And if you think about it, Scene has been around for years now. When other local weeklies have come and gone, you guys have stayed the course and stayed for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, Scene, like you mentioned, started in 1970, so we're getting close to 50 years overall since the publication started. Obviously, it's changed a lot since it started. But to your point, you know, the average age of the reader in print is still in their 40s or so early to mid 40s. But, so a lot of people have been reading it for a very long time and picking it up. But the average online reader or social media follower is in that like 25 to 34 age range. So that's how we can maintain relevance for, say, that next generation. And if you go to our events, we have one this upcoming weekend, United We Brunch. If you go to a lot of our events, it's a younger demographic, right? So they follow us on social media, they might go to our website, and then they come to our events. They might never pick up the paper, but they're still plugged into our brand because of our ability to promote things that we have going out. And so we feel like as long as people have heard of us and are interacting with us in some way, then we can still maintain that relevancy. And you know, we also think that people of every generation, especially once you start getting some money, you know, we're not. A lot of people think that we're appealing to like college kids because it's free, and that might be some of the case. But really, a lot of the stuff that we write about, you need to have some disposable income, right? To go see a show at House of Blues.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
To go out to eat at the new restaurant that just opened up, or you know, even some of the stories are more in depth, and so it takes a little bit of a level of maybe sophistication or having some money in your wallet to be able to do these types of things, and also, you know, that's what the, you know, whether it's millennials or people living in the cities, they want to know what's going on in and around them, and they want to know where to go and what to do as they're looking for plans for this week or weekend.
That makes sense. Now, speaking of events, what made you guys say we're going to make sure that we always have events, whether it's monthly, quarterly, because you don't see a lot of other publications doing that. So that's one thing that sets you apart. What made you guys go down that road?
Yeah, so we really saw that as like both a brand extension for us as well as just a money-making opportunity. And it was kind of a natural fit because we, you know, so it's like a couple of different ways. One way is that, you know, we have our print publication, we have our social media feeds, we have our website. And so we have the ability to promote our events, for the most part, all like almost exclusively internally. And so we have an event, you know, say this brunch one where we're trying to sell 1,000 tickets. We run a print ad every week, we promote it on our social media feeds, it's on our website, we might blog about it, and then, you know, we're selling tickets just based off of that. We're not paying for print, advertising, radio, TV, other web, because we have the ability to promote it. So that's a huge expense saving.
Absolutely.
For that. The other piece is that we know we have this audience of people that are looking to do things, And we also have pre-existing relationships with the different participants in the event, because they're probably had been buying ads from us or might buy ads. So the liquor companies, the beer distributors, some of the restaurants. We're writing about some of those restaurants. We have some of those contacts. And so in a lot of ways, we took maybe that old restaurant that might advertise with us in print, and we transitioned them to maybe doing some events for us and same with the liquor companies. So it was kind of a natural synergy where the events kind of fed off of the print and the digital, and then in other ways the print would feed off of, this week we're along with our brunch event, we're doing a brunch issue where all those people participating in the event also get a print ad, and we make an issue based on brunch. And so there's like a symbiotic relationship where they all kind of feed off of each other. A lot of times people will ask, are you an event company? Are you a magazine? Are you a website? And it's like, we're really a combination. We're not one or the other. We're maybe it's a modern media company, a multimedia company, because we do all these different things, but they're still all under that scene umbrella.
Absolutely, I love that. Now, with everything that you're doing, because I saw that you're also on several boards, how do you find a balance, honestly, Andrew?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think that I've learned not to overcommit myself, and so to try to do what I'm passionate about. So whether that's either my job or outside of that, getting involved in various community efforts, it's to get involved with organizations that I feel I can make an impact at, where to spread out a little bit and get involved in some different pieces, learn about different organizations, but really ones where I feel like my voice will be valued and heard, and that I can get involved in things that I want to see happen in and around the city. And so whether that's different nonprofits, political candidates, like that kind of stuff, is just to pick and choose where I feel like I can make an impact and will be valued, I guess I'd say.
That makes sense. Now, what motivates you personally to keep going when times do get hard and challenging?
I think that it's believing in what I'm doing, and that's, whether it's personally, professionally, it's believing in what we're doing. So it's what we, as in the media company and the publications, or maybe me as in, some of the organizations I volunteer with or am active with, and so like for the weeklies, for the papers, I feel like we, in a lot of ways, do a lot of public good and service in the stories we're telling, and shining a light on things that might not usually get exposed, in telling people stories when they've done something really good, or sometimes shining a light on somebody who hasn't, and exposing that as well, when telling the stories of this great new restaurant that opened up, or show. And so I think in a lot of ways we're doing public good and public service in a lot of the writing and reporting we're doing, and probably the same thing, in the events. We're giving people a good time, and they get to come and enjoy themselves, and give exposure to different people and places. And so I think that, even though we're not always positive and things aren't always great, we do try to be fair and also tell people stories that maybe don't have the ability to tell their stories on the own, or aren't being covered by other media outlets as well.
Absolutely. And that's kind of similar to what my show is doing. So I highlight entrepreneurs, influencers, and creators around the city of Cleveland, and sometimes elsewhere, but primarily around our city. Because to your point, there are a lot of times individuals are really working hard to try their best to grow their business. Like, there's a new restaurant, they're an influencer in the city really trying to make a difference in a change, and sometimes you really don't get the exposure. Let's say Scene Magazine doesn't know about you. Let's say Cleveland.com hasn't heard about you. And there's really not too many places you're going to get that exposure. So I'm glad that you guys do try to shed that light on individuals.
Yeah, one of my favorite publications we do every year is the People issue. We've been doing it, I think, for 3 or 4 years. It was created by our editor, Vince Gregoric, and one of the goals for that is just to basically do 25, 30 profiles of people working, living in and around the city of Cleveland. And for the most part, I mean, even me and the people plugged in don't know who these people are, right? You might not know their name, you might not know their story. You know, we'll always pick at least maybe a couple people who you may have heard of a professional athlete here and there, and somebody else that might be considered famous, but for the most part, these are just people that are kind of continually plugging away, making an impact in their world, whether it's in a nonprofit setting, a business setting, a civic setting, and so you know, we do our best to tell their stories and do profiles of them, and I think that's always one of my favorites because people don't know these stories. These people aren't getting the notoriety or the credit that maybe they deserve for their tireless efforts, and I really like when we're able to shed a light on those types of stories. Yeah.
Now, you have truly, you know, been an example of, let's say, business ownership, entrepreneurship, just really growing and expanding. What advice would you give to someone just starting off as an entrepreneur?
I think that people shouldn't be afraid of taking risks. You know, I think people always look at the downside of that or the consequences of it, but you know, especially if they're starting off, they probably tend to be a little bit on the younger side, and you know, I think that younger generations are switching jobs way more often than previous generations, so I don't think people should be afraid of, you know, I think it's not the best way to look at things, but I think if you look at things in a lot of ways, like what's the worst that can happen with this, right? Things don't go well. You know, I took a little bit of time that I shouldn't have, but like, I think that if you think of that, and as long as the consequences aren't that dire, I think it's worth it to take that risk, follow kind of what your compass or your heart is saying, and don't be afraid to take those things on, because a lot of times, even if it doesn't work out in the end, it's still probably going to be a good experience and a worthwhile risk to take. So I think that would be one. Another one is just to like kind of keep your ears open, and then also, you know, keep conversations going. So whatever it is you're most passionate or interested about, you know, try to talk to people in that area or industry, attend different events. I think that, you know, just getting yourself out there really helps in terms of learning what industry, what you want to do.
Gotcha. So you think networking is really good?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and Scene sometimes has like kind of networking events as well sometimes, don't you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we try to either do our own or partner with other organizations when they're trying to bring people out to various places, and you know, or we cover them, and so we're always a big proponent of trying to get people out to different venues around town, you know, trying to meet people, and trying to set up, you know, ways for people to connect, basically.
Makes sense. Now, other than Scene Magazine and the other publications, what's some of your favorite books that you've read?
I'm more of like a news junkie where I read a lot of different publications.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
And then I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Me too. Okay.
So
well, what's some of your favorite podcasts?
Sure. So I listen to The Daily, which is the New York Times daily one. Every day they have a new story.
Nice.
I listen to a lot of political ones, like the Pod Save America ones. Listen to This American Life, the NPR podcast. I'm sports fans, so I listen to, we do one for Andre Knott and Zach Jackson. They do the A to Z podcast. I'm a regular listener of that. I'm waiting for next year.
Nice.
And so that's kind of where I get a lot of my, being kind of constantly busy, I get a lot of my news, sports, politics, and other kind of narrative-driven stories more from that medium than from reading books, even though I know I should read books.
No, that makes sense, because, you know, it's interesting that you said that. I listen to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Gary Vee.
Yep.
And I listen to a lot of his stuff. He's kind of weird and twerking a little bit, a lot of ways. But I like the way he thinks in terms of where we're going as a society and technology. And one of the things that he always says is, I don't read a lot of books, but I listen to podcasts sometimes. And I read articles sometimes. And what's interesting about that is this was, let's say 20 or 30 years ago, it was like, what? You listen to podcasts, so you don't read books? But it's like learning can come in so many different ways nowadays.
Yeah, I'm always striving to learn more, to read more, to find out what's going on. You know, I'm kind of like a junkie in that way. I'm always looking for more and more information, and I've just found that probably podcasts are and I don't watch as much TV as I used to either, because I get a lot of that from there too. Unless I'm watching like a live game or something like that, I'm not watching that much TV, and I don't see that many movies. So it's like that's my kind of source for finding out what's going on in the world, and it's a way to do it, like, when I'm on the move doing things too. Makes sense.
Do you think that that's an avenue the scene might try to get into?
Yeah, we've explored it a little bit. We did our own for a short time. Like I said, we put out a sports one for Andre and Zach. We do one for the Authentic Audio podcast with Aaron Calfado. We put that one out on our website as well. And so we're always looking for different channels and different contributors. And if it's something that our editorial staff thinks is interesting, or I think it's interesting, we're always interested in finding new ways to reach people. And I think that podcasts are still overall not hugely listened to, but they keep growing and growing.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah,
and I think that they probably will continue to do that as people look for other ways to kind of keep updated and plugged in with what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. Now, with all the great restaurants in Cleveland, what's one of your favorites?
It's a tough. I've actually become a really big fan of Asiatown in the last few years, and so Superior Pho, I love Szechuan Gourmet, which is a Chinese place, which is a lot of the food is very, very spicy and very delicious. LJ Shanghai, which opened up about 6 months ago, that does soup dumplings. That's kind of become my go-to spot.
So you're a spicy guy.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Speaking of spicy, another place that I only had it once, but Parkview Tavern, their hot chicken there is...
I'm not familiar. Where's that?
Parkview is in Cleveland. It's on like West 40th. It's basically almost right on the lake. Kind of in the Detroit Shoreway area.
Gotcha.
It's an old school bar and club that brought in a new chef, and it's called Chow Chow at Parkview, and the hot chicken there is amazing.
Okay.
So yeah, spicy is definitely my thing, and that's what I like. And so there's a lot of good, like, really fancy restaurants like Red Steakhouse, but in terms of going to on a frequent basis, I like more of the smaller kind of.
And I was going to say that, like, Andrew, I'm that mom and pops kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I feel like the food is so authentic, because once it gets like really, really big, then it's like now you got so many customers coming in, and you almost like lose that feel.
Yes. Yeah, and I think being at Scene has allowed me to learn more about the local dining scene and where to go, and neighborhoods that I maybe hadn't been in before, and going to these smaller places, like you said, instead of the big chain restaurants, or maybe some of the bigger chef-driven restaurants.
Right.
And so, I think that Scene has helped me with that. Years ago, one person who worked at Scene said they didn't like Cleveland until they started working at Scene, and then working at Scene opened their eyes up to all that Cleveland has to offer. And loved it. And I thought that was a great testimony.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because they didn't realize there were all these neighborhoods that had distinct character and places.
Absolutely. So, what do you find the most interesting thing about being a part of Scene?
I would say that you get to meet a lot of people that maybe I wouldn't have come across otherwise, and so that might mean people in the newsmakers or in the food industry or politicians, or everybody has their story that they want to get out there and be told. And so I think you just learn a lot more about kind of the way the city works, the way the community works, than I would have in the past. You get to make a lot of new connections with people that are doing really unique, interesting, cool stuff, in and around the city.
No, to that point, is there one particular issue that stood out to you over the years?
I mean, I didn't have as much personal connection to it, because a lot of the coverage was actually prior to our ownership tenure. But I'd say the one that I think is the one we take the most pride in was a story written by Kyle Swenson a few years ago, where he shined a light on 3 men who were wrongfully convicted of murder. It was called like Good Kids, Bad City. Ricky Jackson was one of the 3. He served 39 years in jail.
Wow.
And Kyle's coverage and continuing coverage
Wow.
of that story led to them being released and exonerated.
Wow.
And so the original story was not when we owned it, but Kyle did updates on it and helped the process along while we did.
Yeah.
And then when they got out a few years ago, we did own it at that time, and he did profiles and stories about them getting out. And then I was fortunate to go to a very small event where Ricky spoke, and that's the kind of thing that it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I think he served the longest of anybody in the state of Ohio ever who was wrongfully imprisoned.
Jeez.
But it's just an incredible story.
Absolutely.
That I mean, they may have gotten their story told otherwise, but if Kyle didn't cover their story for Scene and stay on it, I don't know that they ever would have gotten out of jail. So it's just
Wow.
a crazy story that I got to learn more and see more and be more impacted by because we and I got to see it.
Yeah, that's an awesome piece of history right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez.
It was incredible that happened. And
Wow.
he's actually working on a book about it right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like when he started, probably had no idea that it would take that many turns. Like that.
No.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it really was he's actually, along with that book, he's writing for the Washington Post right now. So
Wow.
that got him kind of
Yeah.
into that category because it was such an impactful and such an incredible story.
Jeez, no, that's just an example of the great things that Scene is doing. So what else do you think is really going on with Scene that's exciting over the next year that you guys have planned? Without telling too many secrets.
Yeah, we're still continuing to do a lot of events, and so over the summer is when we really start kicking up with events. We've got our rib burn off we do in downtown Willoughby is coming up in May. We're doing Taste of Summer in the Flats East Bank once again. So that's kind of on the walkway and then street on Old River Road there where all the restaurants and bars are. There's more places open there. That one should really be pretty cool. We're doing our Ale Fest event again in the summer in Tremont, which is our big beer event. And so we've got a lot of events coming up throughout the year. We'll continue to look for good stories that are going on. We've got our Best of Cleveland coming up next month. And then we'll be getting closer to our 50-year anniversary, so to figure out what's going on with that. Yeah.
I can only imagine what you guys are going to do then.
So I know we also have the induction ceremony next month for the Rock Hall, so we obviously won't be covering that as much as possible. In terms of what other big events are going on in Cleveland. Hopefully we'll have another NBA Finals run to cover. But
Oh my gosh.
So,
Now we got to talk about the Cavs before we leave. No, what are we going to do, Andrew?
Yeah, I got the shirt on. I'm going to the game tonight, actually. Whew, I don't know.
I mean, because in one breath you want to say we can't lean too much on LeBron, but how can we not lean too much on LeBron?
Especially with the way the roster is configured right now.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot. I mean, I think even you're spoiled by him definitely, but you're spoiled by the team success even the last few years because this last stretch of games, I mean, I heard that they've already lost more games at home this year. It's tied the most amount of games they've ever lost. LeBron team has ever lost at home. Because they've just struggled so frequently. The games at home have either been they've gotten blown out for the most part or they've blown out the other team.
Yeah.
That they've just been this season's been so terrible, inconsistent.
Yeah.
So many weird stories and distractions and injuries.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, it's like the drama just doesn't stop. And on one hand, it's hard to imagine them losing in the Eastern Conference playoffs. But you see like right now, I think they would play Philadelphia in the first round. I mean, that would not be easy at all.
Right.
And the same thing if they played Washington or Toronto or maybe Boston.
So do you think it's the chemistry?
The chemistry I don't think is great. I think it's a combination of first of all, losing Kyrie.
Yeah.
That they didn't come close to replacing that talent.
And I don't think that we honestly realized back then how impactful he really was to our team.
I think that they should have done more to try to find a way to smooth things over because once you trade him, you're just never going to be as good, and that was what happened. So I think that's part of it. The chemistry is part of it too. The guys they brought in didn't really fit. I think that they probably undervalued Richard Jefferson, James Jones, now Channing Frye. All those guys are gone. Those vets who maybe helped in the locker room, and
Right.
and so I think that they've made, even though I think the last round of trades overall was an improvement, I think that they were short-sighted in a lot of their moves, and those have caused some of the issues you see on the court. I mean, their defense is pretty awful.
It's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, because I feel like it was just weeks ago that I was down here celebrating at this huge parade.
Right.
And now it's like we're one of the teams that people aren't excited about anymore.
No. I mean, you knew at some point it would go the other way, but you would have hoped it wouldn't have happened this soon.
Yeah, like not right now.
No.
So speaking of chemistry, how have you guys at Seam kept that chemistry? I mean, you mentioned the one gentleman that wrote this fabulous piece, but some of your other employees, like how do you guys keep that great chemistry that now you're reaching almost 50 years?
Well, I'd say in Cleveland in particular, we bought the paper about 4 years ago. We still have about 7 or 8 or 9 people still from when we bought it, and that's out of a staff of 15
Nice.
people or so. So we believe in continuity, and longevity has definitely helped us. It's a very specific skill set and work ethic, and also we're constantly kind of working against the clock.
Yeah.
Because every single week,
That makes sense.
Every single week you got to turn your ads in. Every single
Right.
week you got to get those stories done in time, and so it's not for everybody.
Right.
And it is in a lot of ways a 24/7 job, right? You're always thinking about who you want to sell to. You're always thinking about what you want to write. We're always trying to sell tickets to an event, or we have something going on all the time. And so it's a specific mindset, but because of that, I think we value that experience and that kind of know-how to keep those people in place who have contributed for a very long time. And so that has saved us probably, where if we were continually bringing in new people, it would be more of a struggle to kind of keep that mindset in place.
Awesome. All right, last question, Andrew.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Tell me 2 people that have inspired you to get to where you are right now.
So I would say first would be my dad. In I'd say personal and business sense, kind of watching from afar as he was operating in both ways.
Okay.
So the way he treated people, definitely, the employees that used to work for him at the company that I actually was at as well, they knew that he would always be willing to talk to them, to help out if they were going through some type of situation, valued them. So I learned from that, as well as personally, same thing. Whether it's getting involved in different organizations and charities, or just helping people, if they had some advice they needed, if they had some networking, just in terms of how to carry myself. I think I learned a lot from him.
Makes sense.
And so I'd say him, and then if I have to say my dad, I think I have to say my mom as well.
Okay.
And so similar to in terms of how she handles relationships and family, in a similar way in terms of valuing people's perspectives, caring about what people think about things, what issues there might be going on in the world, trying to help people, and just being conscious of that there is a lot of need out there. There's a lot of people that can be helped by something, and I admire that about her, is that for years she's volunteered at the Gathering Place, which helps people and families who are going through cancer. And so just I admire her kind of sense that there are all these people and all these causes and issues that we should be doing more to help, and I think I've learned a lot from her mindset in that as well.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time and being on the show. This has really been awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, guys, we are out. Manny Hall Show.